Edward Joseph Mills lay in his bunk, listening to the cell block make its familiar nighttime noises. Its creaks and coughs and mild electric hum. He'd been in this cell, or ones just like it, for the better part of 40 years. And while the days became a steady blur of boredom and menace, the nights were all their own thing. Unique, every one. Maximum security cells are windowless, with just the narrow slot set into the steel door opening onto the passageway beyond. But Ed Mills could feel the stars turning up above. He didn't need to see them to know they were there. It was almost time. He could feel it in all the usual places, behind his eyes, the hollows beneath his collarbones, just below his sternum, in the soft flesh at his groin. He could almost see the lines pointing up from those places, running through the concrete ceiling, up through 2 more floors of cell block, up and out into the night sky. He imagined those lines like lasers, gray-blue, illuminated and illuminating the dense fog that was almost certainly hanging over Kings Hill. Up and out, the lines of force stretching outward to the places where they hooked into the stars above. Soon, everything would click into place, and then all the doors would swing open. Sometimes at night, Grace came to him. She would stand at the foot of his bed, and even though the room was pitch black, with no light from anywhere, he would see her. Not like a ghost. She didn't glow or shimmer, she was just there, illuminated as if she were standing in a lighted room and had simply been cut and pasted into the absolute dark of his cell. She never spoke. She just leaned against the wall, watching him. Smoke rose from her parted lips, but she didn't speak. Once, long ago, her visitations had frightened him, but not now. Now he lay awake, waiting for her. Most nights she didn't come, and that was fine too. He had the picture of her in his mind, and he could play it on the wall, project it from his mind. Sometimes he thought he could smell the smoke as it tumbled from her mouth. His chest hitched, his breath coming in a wheeze, and he rolled onto his side. It helped, not much, but it helped. Eventually his lungs would fill with fluid too rapidly for treatment, and he'd drown and die, possibly lying right there in the dark of his cell, which was better than dying in some bright hospital ward. He wasn't afraid. He had swum down to depths the few men had ever seen, and he hadn't needed to breathe. He'd climbed right out of his body. He'd passed through the veil of this world, and he knew that life and death were just metaphors, lazy metaphors. He knew Grace would come for him. She wasn't going to come tonight, he knew. He could always tell. But he could still feel the invisible strings tethering him to the stars up above. His lifelines, more bad metaphors. Every place had its anchor points, the places where the powers of the great interstellar machine intersected. Some places had more. Kings Hill had always bristled with them. A crossroads on the cosmic interstate. Terrible metaphor. Revise it later, assuming there was a later. All that mattered was the Kings Hill, not just the prison, but the location itself. The 200 rolling acres of land just a few miles inland from the Pacific was a place of power. And when the stars finally clicked into place and the lines shifted, Kings Hill would be transformed. He closed his eyes and saw Grace leaning against the wall. She opened her mouth to tell him something, but only smoke came out, tumbling upward through the ceiling, where it was lost in the fog. It was okay. He knew what she was telling him. Sit tight. You're right where you're supposed to be. Soon.